Let's start with Charlottesville and Trump and the heat he's getting for his response to it, because I'm in hot water here with at least the moral imbecile wing of my audience for a tweet I sent out right after Charlottesville. I wrote, quoting myself now on Twitter, "In 2017, all identity politics is detestable, but surely white identity politics is the most detestable of all." Seeing the absolutely cretinous response to that, I added, "The necessary context, of course, is the last 200 years of human history." So I think it's perfect to debrief with you over this, because your bona fides as someone who is worrying about immigration are impeccable, obviously. And there's no doubt there are people in the world or even in our audience who worry that you may be a white supremacist or be motivated by racism. So I want to kind of walk through this, and if there's any point where you disagree, I'll be very interested to hear it. But let me just clarify what I was saying about identity politics here, because the point strikes me as absolutely obvious, but given the response, it's clearly not obvious to some people. Just to give you the predictable response, I've been accused of virtue signaling in the most abject way. This is kind of reverse racism, so racism against white people is okay, or you can only be racist if you're white. I hate white people. Something in that genre just came to me in torrents. So let me just clarify this and then see if you disagree. So just as not all religions are the same, I have much more to say against Islam than I have against Anglicanism, though I can find something to say about Anglicanism. And I have much less to say against Buddhism. I think there are wonderful things in Buddhism, although I have negative things to say about it as a religion. There are differences here, and so too with identity politics. Not all identity politics are the same, and they're certainly not the same with respect to the context in which they're being practiced in history. I mean, if you were practicing German identity politics in London in 1950, well, then you deserve to have the shit kicked out of you, right? I mean, this is just, and the same could be true for, Japanese identity politics in Nanking. And if you compare that to black identity politics in Alabama in 1964, which I think most sane people would acknowledge was not only morally understandable, but morally and politically necessary, right? I mean, that is identity politics, a.k.a. the civil rights movement in America.
Once again, Sam Harris is playing loose and easy with linear time. In his tweet, he said, in 2017, all identity politics is detestable, but surely white identity politics is the most detestable of all. And now, as he's trying to bullshit an explanation of that, a defense of that, he says, well, if in 1950 you were engaging in German identity politics in London, then that would be one thing. Or if you were Japanese doing Japanese identity politics in Nanking. And also, you don't deserve to have the shit beaten out of you, period. But I guess, what, is Sam Antifa? Like, what happened there? And then he jumps to black identity politics in Alabama in 1964. So we went from 1950 to, I guess, another 1950s reference regarding the Japanese to 1964 to 2017. Remember, his follow-up tweet was, oh, the context is the last 200 years, white people have been doing terrible things. So he can pick and choose the region, the context, and the year to support his claim, which is that white people are the worst. It's unbelievable. The guy says he's against identity politics while engaging in it.
I mean, if you were practicing German identity politics in London in 1950, well, then you deserve to have the shit kicked out of you, right? I mean, this is just, and the same could be true for, Japanese identity politics in Nanking. And if you compare that to black identity politics in Alabama in 1964, which I think most sane people would acknowledge was not only morally understandable, but morally and politically necessary, right? I mean, that is identity politics, a.k.a. the civil rights movement in America.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sam. Did you not just skip over the Hutus? Or the Zulus? Was that black identity politics? It was identity politics, and they were black. So But you're going to talk about a civil rights movement and how that black identity politics is not the same as the Nazis? Oh, that's embarrassing. So it's only from an American context where blacks are outnumbered and they're the victims. Blacks are just as capable of hatred and vicious identity politics, not to mention genocide. But apparently we're moral imbeciles because we called you out for a retardedly worded and ill thought out tweet? I don't think so. And also, didn't you just refer to the Nazi identity politics as German identity politics? And yet your tweet is about white identity politics. Well, the Nazis were not a white identitarian movement. They were not white supremacists. They were Nazi supremacists, just like radical Muslims are Islamic supremacists. It's not by race. If you're white, yellow, brown, or black, so long as you're a radical Muslim, then you're part of their supremacy. So clearly he's referring to fascism and nationalism of people who happen to be white. And then he compares them to the poor, oh, the downtrodden blacks, oh, the segregation, the Jim Crow, oh, yes, they had to huddle together to fight. Yeah, try comparing the Nazis to the Hutus and the Zulus instead of the NAACP, champ.
Now, my tweet was actually fairly carefully written. I mean,
Carefully written is repugnantly stupid. You said, as of today, in 2017, white identity politics are the worst. And then you followed it up with an about face saying, I mean, if you count the last 200 years, and just smear every bad group of people as, well, they were a bunch of white people there too, so it's kind of a white identitarian movement. Huh? Hey, Sam, were the Vikings a white identitarian movement? Was that white identity politics? Or was that just the Vikings being warlike and savage? How's your African history there, Sam? Are you aware there are black people outside of the slaves of the United States? Are you aware of that? Hey, Sam, do you think the Bloods and the Crips, can we call those black identitarian movements? They're pretty bad, aren't they? Yeah, Black Panthers, Nation of Islam. Yeah, it's amazing that you skipped over those. Brilliant, Sam.
it starts with, in 2017, all identity politics is detestable. And of course, I'm thinking about the West, and I'm thinking primarily about America. I was commenting on Charlottesville, and I believe this. I think Black Lives Matter.
So wait, now it's a comparison between Black Lives Matter and what, neo-Nazis? Is that your little gerrymandered vision of white versus black identity politics? Christ, this is scandalous.
Black Lives Matter is a dangerous and divisive and retrograde movement, and it is a dishonest movement. I mean, it's not to say that everyone associated with it is dishonest, but I find very little to recommend in what I've seen from Black Lives Matter. I think it is the wrong move for African Americans to be organizing around the variable of race now. It's obviously the wrong move. It's obviously destructive to civil society. But let me just say that black identity politics in the U.S. in 2017 is still totally understandable.
Well, Sam, in your tweet, you didn't say in the U.S. You said in 2017, all identity, you just went on from there. And the cops that get killed, the white cops who get killed and the white people who get beaten up by Black Lives Matter, pretty detestable, Sam. Your tweet was tone deaf and ignorant, and also blatantly false. But if you want to say that, oh yeah, white groups are more, there's more of them in America, if you just look at this one little region, and just by the sheer numbers, it's worse, then that's a piss poor point as well.
I think it's misguided, but I think it's completely understandable, and in certain local cases, perhaps even defensible. What is not understandable, generally speaking, is white identity politics in the U.S. in 2017.
And that is because you don't understand it. It is very much understandable. It's actually perfectly understandable. It's as if you have not even paused to give thought to this. I mean, you just named the thing. The fact that black identity movements, well, who do you think the target is of those movements? It's white people. There's a coalition of people against white people. And with each passing day that trend continues, it becomes increasingly more understandable for white people to identify as white, to talk about race, to think of themselves in terms of, I am a white person. I talk about race all the time. Not because I want to, not because it's relevant to me. Only because me and people like me are demonized by huge chunks of society. They go on the offense. These people are now playing defense. It is totally understandable.
I mean, you've got pampered doughboys like Richard Spencer who have never been the victim of anything.
What? Well, he's been punched, attacked, smeared, death threats constantly. He's been the victim of a ton of stuff. Are you kidding me?
Except now the consequences of his own stupidity. And now he gets punched as a Nazi because people mistake him for a Nazi, though he doesn't think he's a Nazi, and perhaps he isn't a Nazi.
Yeah, he isn't a Nazi, and yeah, He didn't deserve to be punched. I thought you said he wasn't victimized, but then you just mentioned he got punched. Huh?
But you have white nationalists and white supremacists marching in the company of actual Nazis and members of the KKK. And that is aligning themselves with people who actually celebrate Adolf Hitler and the murder of millions of people, right? And so this is not the same thing as Black Lives Matter.
Great. And so it's a guilt by association. Yeah, I mean, it's not something I recommend, but I'm still going to spot the difference between a KKK guy, of which there are very few, a neo-Nazi, a white nationalist, and a white identitarian. Huge, huge differences between these groups. I mean, why would they start a rally called Unite the Right if it was united, if they were just one group? They're clearly different groups. This was their attempt, their sad, twisted attempt, to fall under one banner. And it's all deeply disturbing. I mean, all of these people hold terrible views. That's obvious. But to compare that to Black Lives Matter, as if that's an apt comparison, how about the Black Panthers? How about gangsters? How about the hardcore black racists out there? I mean, it's so arbitrary that in your mind, it's a contest between neo-Nazis and Black Lives Matter. The fuck? Hey, Sam, here's an idea. Why don't you compare people who study European history as a major, kind of a white identitarian group, to the Hutus? Oh, we're not doing it that way? Oh, you had a predetermined view of how you... Oh, okay, gotcha.
And it's not the same thing as even Antifa, these goons who attack them and you perhaps got attacked in turn. It's hard to sort out who started it there. And I've got nothing good to say about Antifa. These people have been attacking people all over the country, and they're responsible for a lot of violence. I think it's a dangerous organization, but it doesn't have the same genocidal ideology.
Oh, give me a break. Exaggerate much? Genocidal ideology is what? I got to finish this sentence, please.
Of actual Nazis.
Yes, and there are no actual Nazis, which I just did a video on. You're fearing genocide now. From who? Unbelievable. I mean, you might as well be in hysterics about black Twitters talking about kill all white people are racist, kill a cracker. Go do some research on that. That exists as well. But it doesn't exist quite as bad, right, Sam? It's not quite as bad when black people have genocidal views about white people. No.
Right, so that you have to make distinctions here, and all identity politics is not the same. So I guess I'm just wondering, do you disagree with any of that?
Sam, what a totally dishonest framing of this situation. Your tweet was ass backwards, utterly useless, and straight up anti-white. Why do you think you got the avalanche of hate for that? You think that's a coincidence? Wow. I guess Sam has been thinking about AI and Buddhism a little much. I guess his coders on that meditation app have been pestering him because he clearly has not thought about race in America and is woefully off on this point.
I think I have a slightly different take on it. I mean, I agree with most of what you just said. I think there are several things. One is that I think it's inevitable that if identity politics runs rampant among one group of people, it's almost always going to cause a counterforce. In my latest book, In the Strange Death of Europe, I mention how it's quite hard to see how you don't get nasty white identity politics at some stage as a response to nasty identity politics of other kinds. Or in other words, I think, as I say at one point, it's not in the long term sustainable that everyone's allowed to do it on the basis of their skin pigmentation, apart from people of one skin pigmentation. It's just hard to imagine how that would be sustainable in the long term.
In other words, Douglas Murray just said the very thing I said to Sam Harris. Interesting. So Sam says it's not understandable why these white identitarian movements would be on the rise. Douglas Murray goes, no, totally disagree. Douglas Murray is right. I am right. Big shock.